I can't tell you what it's like to have John Galloway say that he read my book to get out of a slump. That is something that's pretty special, I got to tell you. Like I said before, I am a goalie nerd. We're going to start. Elizabeth, will you turn the lights down? We're going to start with a video that I put together. You'll recognize some of the goalies in this. When I don't know if you noticed, but the last three goalies were Coach Turner, Coach Galloway, and Coach Gilliman. And like I said before when we first spoke outside, they're the three of the best goalies of all time, you know, the best in the world. And I thought about, when I think about the goaltending position, I think about what does it take? What does that mean to be one of the best goaltenders of all time? What do they do the best? Does anyone know off the top of their head? What do they do the best? Yeah.
Practice.
They practice, probably better than most people. Yeah. But what makes them the best in the world? Just why are they the best? Yeah.
Confidence.
It's probably confidence, yeah. Consistency, yeah, I agree with all that. Focus. But what do they do? Stop the ball. They stop the ball better than anyone. And what's great actually about that sequence right there of those answers was all those things are true. All of them are true. But they stop the ball better than other people. That's it, right? So when we talk about goalie psychology, what does that mean? Yeah. Not being afraid of the ball. Yeah, I mean fear, right? How do we control fear? And we have to recognize that fear is a part of stopping an object that's coming at you 114 miles an hour. Unless Ryder Garnsey is shooting, that's totally different. Yeah. You can laugh at that, by the way, it's okay. Yes?
Getting the ball.
What's that? I can't hear you.
Like usually getting to the ball.
Getting to the ball? Sure. Right? Yes? So bounce back, right? If we talk about it in broad terms, like lacrosse goalie psychology, it's really our mindset as we're playing the position, right? Now that's going to be confidence, it's going to be getting to the ball, it's going to be being consistent, and consistency, by the way, is mental. If you can do it once, you can do it again, okay? But when we talk about lacrosse goalie psychology, it's how you approach the position psychologically. And also what's called physiologically. And the way to think of physiological is the physical is affected by the psychology, right? So fear will affect you physically, okay? To give you an idea, I said some of this earlier today, but who am I, right? So I started a company called Get It Done Consulting where I work with student athletes. I work with them on applying sports psychology to grades in academics so that we can help you get recruited. But I'm a certified consultant for the Association for Applied Sports Psychology. I am a performance coach. I'm the author of Thinking Inside the Crease. If any of you guys have read it. Anyone read this? Nice. I love the coaches. One of the greatest feelings, by the way, Jack Kelly was the Brown goalie. I had a picture of him reading my book before the Final Four. He would read a chapter before every game, which was really amazing for me to have that happen. Like I said, I wrote the U.S. Lacrosse certification material. I was assistant coach for the Northeast team. I was a coach or consultant here. I was a coach in New Canaan. But most recently, I was the Brown mental coach for the team this past year. Coach Turner has the goalies. I was more of the team mental coach. Some of the goalies that I've worked with have gone on to all of these schools. This is guys and girls, by the way. To play at this level, you have to have a strong mindset. You can't kind of want it. You can't hope it works out. You can't, you can't go to Syracuse and really think like, oh, it's okay if I don't stop it, or my fear is too great, or I can't get any better, or I'm not going to beat that guy out, or I'm not good enough. I'm happy being the fourth guy. One of my clients was going to Hopkins, and he had said to me the summer before, he said, I said, are you ready? He goes, well, I'm going to get there. I'm going to see how it goes. I want to make the team and feel it out. I said, yeah, okay. Or you could go there and say, I'm going to be the all-time leading assist guy. He was like, oh, yeah, that sounds better. Right? So if you want to go to these schools, and I'm sure there's guys here that want to go to these schools, and there's D3 schools here too, by the way. I was a D3 guy, so let's not poo-poo D3, right? You gotta want it. And that means to recognize that the position, and maybe Coach Turner, you can help me out. The position is 100% physical and 100% mental. Did you see a difference with the goalies this year when we really emphasized that?
Oh, yeah.
Right?
We had our freshman goalie this year who was just couldn't get out of his own way. He was just mentally struggling, and then all of a sudden, Coach Buck and I kind of talked to him, and we asked his level. Remember, we asked his level. What is your level in practice every day? He was like, 5 or 6.
In warm-ups. In warm-ups. He was like a 5 or 6. And he raised it to a 10, and he became the number 2 goalie. I mean, he just put more effort into it. And he was going about his day just like everybody else, just like we all do. But if you want to be the best, one of the things that Jack Kelly does at Brown, it's really amazing that he does this. The night before a game, he will take shots. We'll get the 8 best shooters on the team. And, that's Dylan Malloy, by the way, Tewaaraton winner. That's Kyle Balestri with 63 goals on the year. Like, those guys can shoot. And he would have them time and room shots from top left, top right, on the alley dodge, over and over and over for 15 minutes. No defenseman shooting as hard as they can. Because he figured if I can stop those shots, I can stop anybody. One of the guys I used to work with, Jimmy Joe Granito, he's now at Drexel. And he would have, what was Sawyer's first name? I can't think of his first name. The guy who shot 114? Mike Sawyer, right? He was a guy that he would shoot 114, and every day in practice, every day, he would stay there with Sawyer for another 20 minutes and take shots. It broke his thumb, though, so it didn't kind of hurt him a little bit. But nonetheless, he kept playing, and that was Jimmy Joe's thing. Okay. So, my story. When I was, and I've said this before, but when I was a freshman in college, I sat behind a senior until about the last 3 games or so, and I ended up starting the last 3 games. I did okay. Played fine, I guess. And so the fall of my sophomore year, come back, 3 or 4 months later, and they had brought in a transfer who was also a sophomore. So in the D3 world, when you only have 2 goalies on the team and they bring in someone your age and he becomes the starter, that's a tough pill to swallow because you're going to sit potentially for 4 years other than 3 games during freshman year. Does that make sense? Right? It'll be one thing if you brought in a freshman and there was a junior and then he was a senior, you were a sophomore, and you sort of rotated like that. So I spent the next 4 months, or whenever it was from October to January, fighting to get my job back. I was in the weight room every day. I was listening to loud music to get fired up for practice. Every day was like a game. Okay, I worked so hard. And by the time the season came around, I was named the starter. And the first game I played pretty well. We lost to Nazareth, but I played pretty decent. Then we played Colgate, and we beat them, and I got the game ball. So again, I played pretty well. I was captain for the week. And the next game, we played Cortland, which was a big rivalry between Ithaca and Cortland up there in upstate New York. And I was so worried that I wouldn't play well that I played awful. I was just awful. Because if I had messed up, if I was bad at all, I knew I was going to get pulled. Because I had fought so hard, tooth and nail, to get that spot, that if I messed up just a little bit, I was done. But that comes from a sense of insecurity. I wasn't confident about my game. Basically, what I was trying to do, I was trying to perform in front of the coach so that I played well. So he could say, oh, yeah, he's playing well. I didn't stop the ball. And so I was so focused on trying to keep my job, I didn't do my job. Does that make sense to everybody? What do we say my job is? Stop the ball, right? What did I try to do? What's that? Impress the coach. So every showcase that you go to, right? Talk about lacrosse goalie psychology. The recruiting world has gotten insane, right? And if you go there and you're like, okay, there's, let's say you have really good grades and you got Harvard, Princeton, Yale, and Virginia, and Michigan, and Georgetown, all right there, all those coaches. It's easy to get caught up in saying, oh, they're right there, this is my chance. Does that make sense? And that's just normal. This is why I do what I do, is to help you guys understand that that is normal. Yeah, you're supposed to worry about that. You know why? Because it's the rest of your life you're talking about, right? Potentially. Now, clients that I have, I will help them understand that it's not the school that they go to that's going to make them successful. It's going to be you. You are the person that will make you successful, not the school or the team that you play for. Does everybody understand that? Success is not the bumper sticker on your parents' car. Does that make sense? You create your success. Okay? So don't think that, I didn't get a call from Princeton. That means nothing. All right? You generate your success. Okay. We already talked about this, right? Your job is to stop the ball. That's it. I asked that of one of the goalies that I worked with. I'm like, what's your job? And they said, to step to the ball. And I understand that answer. I get it. But that's not right? We want to work at stopping the ball. The problem is there's a lot of interference. It's not easy. It's hard to just stop a ball every time. I mean, these guys, who led this? I guess Jack Kelly led the season, right, with 61%? Something like that? And he was the only one in the 60s this year. So if you're looking at roughly 55% as a good year, it's really hard. And you have to understand that. Who knows the average save percentage for a girl high school goalie? Let's take a guess. Yeah. 20. Oh, 40? 40. 30, it's 38%. 38% of the time is the average goalie, right? By the way, Coach O'Sullivan over here, girls, her junior year, sophomore, junior year, 74%. Right? That's not a game changer. That's a season changer. That's a program changer. You can do it. Okay? You can do it. You get in the 70s. Okay? So one of the things I like to talk to goaltenders and face-off guys, if you have any face-off guys also, is what's your goaltending philosophy? What would you say your goaltending philosophy is? What do you think? Okay, good question. He asked, what do you mean by that? What do we mean by goaltending philosophy? Let's look at it another way. I'll get to you. My face-off guy, we said, okay, what's your philosophy for facing off? He goes, to win. I was like, yeah, that's probably true. I mean, that's probably the goal of it, right? To win. I mean, probably true. But we talked about it and we figured out that his philosophy was to be prepared. And he watched a lot of film. He knew who he was going against every week. If he was prepared, he was going to give himself a better chance. Secondly, that he was going to stick to his routine. And if you watch Will Garral from last year, he would go up, to the X and he would turn around. And he would sort of take some time. I never told him to do this. He just started to do it. And he would just, and then he would go back, right? Getting ready. It didn't matter what the refs were talking about or the other guy. He would just get ready. He would stick to his routine. It's basically just a golf routine that we put in the face-off. And then lastly was to adjust during the game, right? So if he was prepared, stuck to his routine, and could adjust during the game, that's how he was going to play his best. So what do you think your goaltending philosophy is? Yeah. How you play the position. Is that a philosophy? If I said my philosophy is how I play the position.
Well, it's like, by that I mean like what you do to be like a goalie.
That's true. And so he said it is what you do to be a good goalie. But what is that? Okay, we got.
I think forgetting about the last play and making the next save.
Making the next save, forgetting about the last one. Okay. That's probably part of it, yeah.
Try not getting down. Like what he said,
Not getting down on yourself. Yeah, that's probably part of it. What else? Yeah. Find the zone. The zone, if anyone doesn't know, is a sort of a psychological idea that you're playing in the zone. Everything's slow motion. And you can, if you think consistently, you'll find the zone more often where you're just playing perfect, where it just everything goes your way. Danny, what's your goal-intending philosophy?
I would say focus on all my preparation during the week, so when I'm playing in the game, I'm not thinking about anything but seeing the ball.
That's a pretty good philosophy, right? I'm going to prepare so that I don't have to think by the time I'm playing. That's pretty good. Coach Reardon, what do you think?
Kind of the same thing. Like I know personally that I get everything set. Like a day before the road trip, my bag's packed, my clothes are in my bag, and I got my meal already set up in a bag. I make a sandwich, I do my thing. So the only thing that I have to focus on is winning and saving the lacrosse ball. And I got a saying that I earn my game day. I like to earn my game day.
Yeah, deserve victory was Winston Churchill, deserve victory. Yeah, I like that. And so your preparation is a little more tangible. You're really making sure everything is prepared, right? And by the way, the higher the preparation, okay, the higher the confidence, the lower the anxiety. Okay, so that's actually really good that you guys do that. Okay? If I were to have, let me, why do I bother, right? What's the point, right? Why would I even say, oh, okay, that's my goaltending philosophy, okay, I got it. Because if you know what you're aiming at, if you know what you want to do, then and what works for you, if you take a second and think about it, like, oh, every time I play well, I do this, right? And you can think about it and have structure about how you go about goaltending. It's not just hoping it works out. Or, I played bad, I don't know why, whatever. But if you can say, I wasn't prepared, I didn't have my sandwich, you know what I mean, or whatever it happens to be, I was thrown off, okay? If I had to give one, in order to stop the ball and play my best, I must perfect my angles, which we'll talk about in a sec. I must find the release and the contact point of every shot and be of an aggressive mindset before I walk on the field. Okay? One of my clients was about to go into a warm-up, and I stopped her. I go, whoa, you're not ready. And she goes, I'm about to warm up. And I know what she meant, right? She meant like, yeah, I'll get fired up during the warm-up. It's too late, right? You got to get fired up all the time. You want to be, what I say, I want goalie robots. They are the same way every shot they see. Boom, boom, boom. Always the same. That you are playing at a 9 all the time, okay? Because let's say you're playing at a 6, meaning intensity level, right? And you walk in too late, and you had a test, and you had all this stuff going on, and you walk in, and you're sort of like, again, we talked about interference last year. There's too much interference going on, and you're not ready to play. Well, what's going to happen? You're going to play well or play bad? Bad, right? Well, probably. Okay? Is your confidence going to go up or down? Starting to see the process? Right? We can control this part. That's the key. You can control this. You can't just hope it works out. I mean, you can try that, but it's not going to work. It's not going to be consistent. So if you create your own philosophy and say, this is what I do. I know I play my best when I do this. Now, knowing all this, would anyone have a philosophy? Would anyone be able to come up with a philosophy now? They think. Anything different? How about that? It doesn't have to be a whole philosophy. Anything different? Oh, I play great when I do this. Yeah.
I play great when I keep a level head and I think about the shot after.
Okay. I like that.
I like to sort of isolate myself and sometimes listen to music before games, so I play well for that.
Love it. And that's great. That goes into that. Yeah.
Being confident on and off the field.
Confident on and off the field, to isolate myself a little bit with music and to stay focused on the shot at hand, right? Yeah.
Just stare at a ball or just throw in the air, keep my eye.
Stare at the ball and get zoned in on and looking at the ball, yeah.
And then it gets
Feeling in control of the ball and yourself. Okay, I like that. Yeah.
Just being relaxed and focusing on the game.
Love it. Trying to always be positive. That's great. Yep.
Just keeping my eyes as wide open as possible and focusing on
Keeping my eyes as wide open. Yep, I like that too. Yes.
To keep learning even when I'm in the game.
Keep learning even in the game. We'll talk about that. Okay, so 4 minutes ago, you didn't have a philosophy, but right now you're starting to develop your own philosophy, and all of those are different. His is going to be different than yours, and yours is going to be different than hers. Okay? Develop your own philosophy. Think about it for a second. Okay? Okay, so in order to stop the ball, we got to do what? Breaks down to 3 things. 1, we've got to perfect our angles. Sort of what we were talking about today. Actually, one of my drills was the reverse arc today. That's perfecting your angles, right? We want to be able to stay as square as possible to the shooting shoulder. Guys, have you guys heard that before, the shooting shoulder? I want to be on the shooting shoulder. I might talk about this later, but while I'm on it. Okay? If you are square to the center of my body, okay, you're going to be here, angled that way. Instead of, if I have it righty, the ball is going to be coming. So let's look at it this way. I put a camera in the goal, back to goalie nerd stuff. I put a camera in the goal and had a friend shoot from high, low, sidearm, whatever it was. And one of the things we noticed that goalies, for the most part, don't you all look kind of right here? You know what I mean? Like you're kind of looking in that area. But one of the things we found, and we would slow down the film, we found that the release point is way away from that spot, right? So if you're playing me straight up on the center of my body, rather than the side that my stick is on, you're going to be giving yourself a more difficult angle than if you played my shooting shoulder. And especially if I'm coming across this way and you're staying on my shooting shoulder, you're going to be more on that pipe that I want to hit, and now I'm going to have to pull it all the way across. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay? So for me, stay on the shooting shoulder. Now, find the release and contact point. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. And then a consistent, aggressive mindset. Now, if you feel that you play better with a relaxed mindset, like you don't get too amped up, that's fine. But at some point, you have to be aggressive in how you're moving. And if you think about Coach Turner, Galloway, and Gilliman in that video, they are moving aggressively, even though they might be relaxed. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? So I don't want you to say oh no, I have to be intense because Coach Buck told me. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that your aggressive movements have to be there. They have to be there. Now, that could be we'll look at it in a sec. Coach Galloway's first save in that video, he just does this. He doesn't step, he just moves his hands. And it's an aggressive sort of move, right? But one of the things you also see with Coach Galloway is every time he makes a save, he's fired up. That has to happen before the shot. We'll talk about that more in a second. Okay? 3 things. Perfect your angles, release point, contact point, you got to see it, and then be an aggressive mindset. Oh, we just talked, okay, that's what we talked about. Oh, here's another thing too. Again, what I say is don't take it as gospel. Mental toughness is about believing in your own uniqueness. So take some things, don't take nothing. Take some interpretation of what I say, whatever it happens to be. But one of the ways that I play and teach sometimes is no arc, right? Your feet are all the way on the goal line, okay? If you want to do that, great. If you don't, great. I don't care. Whatever it happens to be, but just know why. Don't do it because someone told me. Even if someone told you and you do it, just say, well, because I agree with that. That's why I like it. I play more aggressive with a higher arc. I like a lower arc where everything is very simplified because you don't have to move as much. You can just watch. The one thing about seeing the ball is that your eyes can't physically watch it all the way. It's impossible. And so it's just going too fast. So what happens is our eyes, so there's the shot, our eyes will take these little pictures along the way to the contact point. So our release point is where the ball leaves the stick. Our contact point, let's see if I can do this. Oh, contact point is right there. Okay? Does that make sense, everybody? The contact point is key. And here's why. Because a lot of goalies will see the ball very well. But due to a fear response, which we'll talk about in a second, because of a fear response, they'll buckle their knees a little bit and bring their hands in. And what happens is they'll follow it and just go right with the ball. And that's called a reverse C, right? You see how my body makes a reverse C, right? So they're not finding the contact point. We are finding the release point, and very, very well, right? They'll watch it all the way in, but it's happened so fast, it's just boom, and they go with it. So they're not finding that contact point. You have to find the contact point. Now, if we find the release point and we find a contact point, for the most part, we're watching the ball the whole way. Make sense? But I will say, for often younger goalies, they will stop watching, especially on a bounce shot somewhere in here. Okay? Why? Why do we stop watching right there? Yeah?
You're ready for like the contact with the ball and like the sticks, like to get ready for the force and stuff.
To get ready for the force of the shot, right? But what's happening? Yeah, what's happening with the shot right then?
It hit the ground already.
It hit the ground. Why do I stop looking at it?
Because you think you're in a good position.
Okay, maybe. I think he said, I think you think you're in a good position. Yeah.
Fear?
What about the fear?
That you don't want to get hit.
Right. Why in a bounce shot would you stop right about there? Yeah.
Because when there's a bounce shot, it goes. You're afraid that it's gonna bounce up and like hit you like right in the chest or something.
So he said that it's gonna go and bounce up and hit you. The reason why we do that on a bounce shot is the change of direction. Because you watched it the whole way, maybe what are we talking about? 3/4 of the way, 75, 80% of the way, you watch it. And now, for about 4 feet in front of you, 3 feet in front of you, it's changing direction. And it's going, I don't know, 80, right? So now that shot became basically a 4-yard shot. And so it's very common to watch it, and then do this. Or the other one I see a lot, especially with girls, that they will watch it come in. Basically, it's just interesting. They'll watch it about 3/4 of the way and then tuck their chin, right? So they see it and then go all the way down. So it looks like this, rather than watching it all the way and then making the save, staying on the ball. Does that make sense? Okay? To me, that's a fear response. So we need to get over that, which we'll talk in a second. Okay, the rods and cones of the eyes. Ever hear that? Rods and cones in your eyes? Okay, again, back to goalie nerd stuff. This is me. So the rods and the cones, the rods see peripheral. The cones see what's right in front of you, okay? And if we put the ball, the release point, in 6% of what we're looking at, right? Then our reaction time will be better. What does that mean? Okay, so you can all do this. So here comes a shot, right? I want you all to look exactly at the head, okay? So the release point's right there if we froze it in time. Everyone looking right at it? Put it within the 6% of your total vision. Now, can you see the rods and cones above, right? Can you see the G3 and Get It Done logo on the screen? Can you see the whole screen itself, right? So that is all the 94% that we don't necessarily need. If we can get the release point within that 6%, our reaction time is better. Studies show. So, I don't know if you can see this too much because of the light. Can you see how that's more in focus? Can you see that? Yeah, it's a little difficult because of light. But that F, right, I think it's called the foveal area, something like that. That's that 6%, okay? So, yeah, you can kind of see it's a little bit more in focus. If you get the ball within that 6%, you're going to be quicker. Do you need anything? No, but thank you. Okay, does that make sense? Right? So I was playing a couple years ago against Paul Carcaterra. You know Paul Carcaterra? Right? He's pretty good. He's really good. It wasn't fun. Anyway, I knew he was going to shoot. And the GLE was like this, where the goal going that way. So he was just below GLE. I knew he was going to shoot. You just knew it. And he was like this, and I knew he was going to come out. So I just got zoned in on that ball. And he came around this way, and it was like a beach ball. Because I was so prepared for the shot. I was so ready for it, and I was in that 6% that it was easy. It wasn't even a difficult save to make. Make sense? Okay? So as far as contact point and release point, you have to see the ball. If you don't see the ball, you're just hoping to get hit. Does that make sense? Okay? And then you have to find the contact. So if you get beat a lot this way, or you're going high and that sort of move, find the contact point. There's a drill that maybe we can do tomorrow that will help with that. Okay? Oh, who's that guy? How did that get in there? That's weird. Can you guys see that? That's Coach Gittleman's college. You look good, Coach. All right. Okay. You must believe first, and then you can accomplish. Okay? So, this is something that we're working with the Brown team this year that we talked about early on. Believing that you can win. Believing that you can win it all. Okay? People's level of motivation, affective states, which are emotions, and actions are based more on what they believe than what is objectively the case. Okay? So in working with Brown this year, there was a lot of talk about in the preseason quarterfinals. I believe we can get the quarterfinals. And I was okay, that's great. But let's say you think you can get to quarterfinals, and you actually get there. What are the chances, if you win, of winning the semis? What do you think? What do you think? What are the chances? I was looking at you. Yeah. What are the chances, if you believe you can get to the quarters, but that's only where you're supposed to go, what are your chances of winning the semis? Yeah.
They're lower because you're complacent, you're happy that you've made it to what your goal was set out to be, which was, and what people believe, which was to make it to the quarterfinals.
That's exactly right. And what he said was that if you believe that you're only going to go to the quarters, and then you're so happy you won that game, to get to win in the semis is going to be really, really difficult. Okay? So what you believe is more important than what is objectively the case. So when I asked the team, the first time I met with the team, I said, do you guys believe you can beat any team on any given day? And they said, and we talked about this. They said, yeah. I go, so you're telling me you guys believe you can beat any team on any given day? And they were like, yeah. I go, let's win the whole thing. And they were like, right. Right? And so what's the advantage of that? You start thinking like a champion. You start practicing like a champion. You start believing that you can win the whole thing. So the quarterfinals is just a stepping stone. I believe I can do this. I believe I can succeed in life. Right? I believe it. So therefore, I can do it. If you don't think you can get A's, you won't. I guarantee that. You have to believe that you can do it first. You have to believe that you can be the starter. You have to believe that you can go to Syracuse. If you don't, you will not act like it. One of the things that I say all the time to my clients is you have to think like an All-American first, and then you become one, not the other way around. Does that make sense? You have to think like an All-American first and then become one, not the other way around. Why not? Yeah. Yeah. If you don't think you're going to become one, you're not going to become one because you've created so many limitations that it's so hard to become All-American just to start with, right? I think most people think, oh, I'd be confident too if I were All-American. That's not how it works. How'd they get there? by playing confident, by being confident. There's something called self-efficacy, which is you don't have to be the most confident person in the world in yourself, but you can have self-efficacy, which means you believe that you can accomplish a task. So if you're a little shy or you're a little insecure with yourself outside the field, believe in yourself on the field. You can compartmentalize that. I believe that I can stop a ball from anybody. That's what the best players in the world have. And you can start to think, just choose to think like that. Okay? Fight or flight. Okay? Basically, courage or fear. This is probably the most underrated part of playing the position. Nobody talks about this stuff. Okay? What we're talking about is what happens when we have a fear response, okay? There's a whole bunch. It can be one, it could be all four. It depends, all right? It's all different. But your chin will tuck, your elbows will come in, your knees will turn, and your eyes will squint. I don't know. I haven't studied enough. I apologize. But I don't know if you can stop that one. That one's pretty tough. But for the most part, all the other ones, this happens, right? So what will happen, and we'll see in a second, I guarantee we all do this. I was the king at this one, right? I would drop every time. And I've had goalies tell me, like, oh, it's because I'm baiting. No, you're not. You're just getting out of the way. That's all it is, right? And this is normal. This is how we stayed alive for thousands of years. You know, this is how it works, okay? If we feel fear, when some guy's coming back and just cranking, right? Some girls on an 8-meter, now, you know, girls a lot differently are shooting from the 8-meter, just a sidearm rip, right? There's fear in that. So what will happen? Your chin will come down, your elbows will come in, and your knees will come in like that. And then probably a squint. So can you see the contact point? No, right? So in sports psychology, we talk about the flashlight theory, that you want to point the flashlight in the right place, right? So if we point the flashlight and say, well, you have to step to the ball. But if you're frozen from fear, how can you do that? I think of that as torture. Well, step to the ball anyway. But I'm afraid. So how do we change that around? How do we not be afraid? That's the key, okay? So if every time you're expecting someone, not even, every time someone reaches back to shoot and your first move is that, you need to fix the fear, not the stepping part. Does that make sense? That's why, I say sports are 100% mental and 100% physical. That's what I'm talking about. You can't have one without the other. Okay? You've got to address the right things. You've got to put the flashlight in the right spot. Whoop. Let me see if that's right. Hold on. Yeah, okay. So, by the way, if these goalies, I have about 5 or 6 examples. If these goalies are in here, if you know them, everybody does this. So this is not unique to these guys, okay? Even one of the, I froze one of Coach Turner's highlights last year or 2 years ago where he actually was like this. And it was one of his highlights. But, it was sort of a fear response. It's natural. They all do it. Everyone does it. It's a human response. Okay. So if you watch this guy, okay. So what do you notice right off the bat? About this? Yeah.
When the guy brought his hands back, he squatted lower.
Well, what do you notice about this right here, this shot? Yeah. I mean, this particular shot.
Oh, it's wide open.
What's open?
The one they're showing between him and
Oh, yeah, it's a total time and room. Yeah. What else? Is he right now? I think that's his form. And right here. Yeah. He does, but right now, what do you notice? Yeah. No, I think he's looking at it. He looks like he's looking at it. Yeah. He spreads his legs pretty wide, right? That's a very wide base. Where are my directors? Danny, what do you notice there?
Well, again, compared to my style, it definitely sinks down a little bit, but right there, he's in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, and I think it's okay, right? I mean, Coach Turner kind of played like that, but his stick was higher. So, that seems okay. I mean, I don't know if I would coach that, and even coaches said that he wouldn't coach the way he played, right? Your stance. Right. So, Coach, I don't know if you know when Coach plays, he plays like this. It's just sort of a wide base, really high hands. Okay, there was a Darien guy who was All-American. He had the same sort of stance. That's pretty good, I guess. I don't know. That's the other thing, too, by the way. In believing in your own uniqueness, if anyone follows golf, Tiger Woods is considered one of the best golfers of all time, also Jack Nicklaus. Their swings are not the same. Chichi Rodriguez, his swing was awful. It was really ugly, right? Gary Player had a different one. All these guys are different. Jordan Spieth is different than the next guy. Just be you. Stop the ball, however you do that, with probably perfect angles and seeing the release point, seeing the contact point, and have an aggressive mindset. How you do that is irrelevant. Back to our scenario. Now, if we go back a couple slides, he's got all four, although I assume his eyes are squinting. Yeah, you guys see it? Right? Knees are down. Elbows were in, now they're popped out. And his chin is down. And he's not watching the contact point. Right? But what's the issue? You might say like, oh, well, that's an awful attempt at a save or whatever it is. But it's not physical. This is just purely a fear response. Time and room from some Darien kid going low to high from 8 yards. This is what happens. This is just part of the deal. Does that make sense? Right? So I would guess that before this shot was taken, he was not in an aggressive mindset. In the bring it mindset, which you see on the shirts, right? So this is what happened. These are the physiological effects of fear. Your elbows and knees will drop. That's why I was also talking about like when you turn. Very often, if you feel fear, the physiological component is your hands will come in because it's natural. I want to protect my body. Make sense? Yes?
Would they also like fall down to their knees?
Fall to your knees, absolutely, especially if it's going high, because you can get out of the way. So I don't know, one of the coaches has a highlight reel where he actually goes this way, and I think that's a bit of a fear response because now the shot is going this way, and so he's like, oh, this is safe, so I can move, rather than right at your head, which would be like that, right? Okay. So there, did you see the reverse C? Oh, did I? Did you see the reverse C there? Oh, let's start it all over, sorry. Oh, why does that happen? Anyone know? All right, one more time. See that reverse C? Okay, watch that right there. Oh, am I going to be able to get it back? Okay, how's this position right there? Seems okay, right? I mean, that looks pretty good. He seems pretty balanced, the whole thing. Nothing wrong there. But boom, did you see it? See his knees? So the first thing to move was his knees. That's fear. That is just part of the deal. It is not anything else. It's purely a fear component. So you can watch any college game and you will see guy after guy having some sort of fear response. The key is to overcome it, okay? Let's see if I can. Chin down, knees in. His elbows were in. Is he looking at the contact point? Nope. Okay, pretty good position. Maybe a little fear already, right? with his just squatting a little low. And watch. See his hands dip? I think it's in slow motion so you can see it again. Watch his hands dip. Oh, it did it again. Damn. Okay. You sort of get the idea, right? But watch this. This happens quick. Look at that. Is there any fear in that motion? No. Right? Straight-legged, by the way. Just straight-legged, just moves his hands. Whoop. That's it. There's no fear in that at all. It's just see the ball, stop the ball. That's it. Right? So those other goalies could have saves like this, but they weren't in the same mindset that Coach Galloway is in this scenario. Okay? And when we talk about mindset, watch Coach Galloway in the next couple video clips of how fired up he is. Watch this. It's not the save right there. It's this part. How many have done that during a save? And I would put that as part of the save. Watch him. Is it here? Yeah, see him pump his fist? You can't make that save if you're not in the right mindset. You can't do it. By the way, reverse arc. See how he keeps his hips square? Like we talked about today. Look how fired up he is again. Here's Coach Turner. Remember he talked about the cradle, what'd you call it? When you cradle it? Curl. Perfect example right there. Look at where his body ends up. Has any goalie coach ever told you, and this is something we'll talk about tomorrow too, has any goalie coach ever told you to end up on your knees? Would that be bad form? Yes or no? Who says yes? Who says no? I would say yes, it's bad form. But it's appropriate for making stops. Does that make sense? No one will tell you to end up on your butt or your knees. Why does it happen? Someone tell me. Yeah. Being aggressive. Yeah, okay.
Just your way of stepping over the ball.
Maybe. I doubt you'd end up on your butt if that was the case. One of the girls. Yeah. Making sure that it won't go past you. Yes. Who else? Yeah. If you're out of position, well, that could be. Yeah. You're giving everything to make the first save. Interesting first save. Yes.
Just your momentum from all that you're trying.
What's your job? If your job, your number one priority is stop the ball, you will end up on the ground. You've got to keep that in your head. It's not about form. It's about stopping the ball and giving everything you can, which one of you guys said, when you see that ball, committing to that ball. Does that make sense? Yes.
Coach, I have a question.
Yep.
So a lot of times I think personally that if you say you make a save that's a disadvantage, you tend to leave your comfort, leave your
Form
to try to make that spectacular save.
Did everybody hear that? Everyone hear that back? Yes? Okay. That's exactly right. And that you're going to do whatever it takes. But one of the things we talked about in my goal-attending philosophy, which I think you would totally agree with, is that you have to be in that mindset before the game starts. Because if you're not in that mindset, there is no way you're going to do whatever it takes to stop the ball. Because you're going to be like, oh, shoot. Oh, well. Does that make sense? To be the best goalie in the world, you got to want it. You got to want to stop that so bad. And because you perfected your angles and you watch the release point, the mindset is what's going to get you into that position that he's just talking about. Starting to get it? Right? Starting to flow here? Okay. Okay. So I'll try to keep this a little quicker. I did some studying into the psychology of extreme sports athletes. And one of the things that they recognize is they could die. Okay? They accept they could die. All right? And you would think, oh, that seems weird. But it actually makes sense. You could die in any sport. That's a good point. But when you're jumping off a building, that's a whole nother world, isn't it? Right? That's a little better than golf. Right? So if I'm at the top of a building and I have one of those capes on, right? Those guys just flying around. And I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Like, I'm going to die. Do I have any chance of leaping? None. I have no chance. But if I say, yeah, I guess I could die, but I know what I'm doing, right? They accept it. Yeah, that's probably why they do it, because they think they could die, but I want to cheat it, right? So the bring it mindset, okay? You want them to bring it. You want to get into the bring it mindset. You want to have that feeling like, come on, I got it, let's go. It's almost like a turnover. Like, shoot it, right? And there are times where you're not going to have it, and that's normal. But let me give you a scenario. I was working with a girl, and she was a good goalie, but she wasn't going to play in college. They actually convinced her to play. She was a really good hockey goalie. And they finally got her to play, and so that she played the whole season. She was okay. She could have played better. And at the end, she wanted me to start working with her again. And so we were literally walking out to the goal for the state championship. I was going to warm her up for the state championship. And I said to her, are you going to play in college? And she goes, no. I knew the answer. And she said, no. No worries. And then I said to her, are you going to ever play organized lacrosse again? Because girls don't have the opportunities as much for the club teams and stuff like that. She goes, no, I guess not. So I said, you got about 2.5 hours left of lacrosse in your life. And she goes, oh, I guess so. I go, let's see how many bruises you can get. And she was like, okay. And she had like 18 saves, and they won by 3. So like they all mattered, I think they won like 10-7. So to have a great day was a good time in the state championship. But she had that bring it mindset. I want to get a bruise. I want to stop the ball. I'm going to stop it. Bring it. You have to have this, okay? A lot of times I'll see guys up high. They can do great up high, but they can't down low because they're a little bit fearful. Or the opposite is true. Oh, it's down, so it's out of my way, right? I don't have to go down, so this is easy. I'm just going to hit in the legs. That's easy. But up high, boom, okay? You've got to get in this mindset. It is key. No goalie in the MLL does not have this. So if that's the case, let's get this. Does that make sense? We've got to manufacture that. How do you do it? A whole nother conversation. Or in the book, right? You can read my book. By the way, which I have, if anyone wants to buy, I have a whole bunch. Okay? We've got to get into the bring it mindset. Choose fight or over flight. The desire to stop the ball must be greater than the fear of getting hit. And you see that from the first half of that highlight reel to the second half. The desire to stop the ball must be greater than the fear of getting hit. It's just a fact. And you might get hit, but that's irrelevant. Put a garbage can in there. Put Hector the Rejector in. Right? That's all you are. I mean, if you're just tucking your chin and sort of hoping you get hit, you're just a really small Hector the Rejector. You guys all know what Hector is, right? The thing you put up? Okay. Super Beast Mode. Okay? An unstoppable, relentless, yet smart way of performing in any sport. It's okay to be in Super Beast Mode. Get into Super Beast Mode. One of the things that you can do, by the way, to get fired up is when you start to get ready on the sideline, put on your helmet as if you're a gladiator getting ready for battle. Okay? No one will know, right? I mean, you don't have to tell anyone. You can tell them if you want, but if you just grab it, sort of put that on and just feel like a gladiator, right? And as you're putting on, anyone remember Rambo movies? I know I'm really old. right? And he's putting on all the gear and the knives and the guns and all that stuff, right? Same thing. Put on those gloves like you're getting ready for battle. When you get out there, boom, I'm ready to go. Let's go. Bring it. Do you see how that's the way to play? Do you guys see that difference? This is not just your average goalie camp. This is how the best players in the world play. Okay? You have to have this stuff. You know, if you want to call it super beast mode, call it whatever you want, it doesn't matter. But when you know you're in that mode, you've got to get into it. And this is true for girls and guys. Okay? For the girls, you can dominate. You can dominate a whole season just by doing this. We don't have time for that. Questions? Who's got a question? No? Just yawning? Who's got a question that's like about sort of a personal thing? Oh, what about this? Oh, in practice or starting or whatever it happens to be. Who's got a question? Everyone's one, yeah.
How do you get over a tough season?
How do you get over a tough season? It's a great question. We didn't talk about it much tonight. The next shot is always more important than the last one. Okay? So the way I look at shots, every shot exists in a vacuum. There is no relation to the one before it and the one after it. It's only that shot. It's the only one you can save, is the one that is currently in front of you. So if the season is over, let's just say that you didn't play any off season, right? So the season is over on June 1st, whatever it happens to be. That's your last shot. Well, when's the next one? January 15th. Oh, that's the next one. It's irrelevant. Let it go. There's no value to thinking about the last one. Just focus on the next one. With golfers, one of the things I have them do is as they're walking down the fairway, imagine there's a wall behind them, and just imagine always just pushing you forward, just thinking about what's in front of you. Another question? Yeah?
What's some fun things that we can do by ourselves to kind of strengthen ourselves mentally?
Things that we can do by ourselves to strengthen ourselves mentally. One of the things is getting focused on only that shot, just over and over and over. Another is to listen to music that gets you fired up or fired down, whichever one works better for you, for 20 minutes before the game. Okay? There was a bunch of freshmen in a team I was coaching that were sort of laughing and joking in the locker room, and then our two-time All-American was just sitting there with his headphones on, just like sleeping, like not sleeping, but just focusing and listening to music. And we were like, guys, two-time All-American. Right? He was just getting ready for that game. Okay, take that time. You have to find that time. Okay? What else? Yeah.
How do you focus on like directing the defense, but also like focusing on the shot?
How do you focus on directing the defense and also focusing on the shot? Again, in the book, but real quick, at some point, you're going to be looking in your peripheral vision like we talked about before, right? You're going to be watching this cutter here. You're going to be watching the ball moving across the top, but they're not shooting. At some point, as goalies, we just know a shot's coming. You just know it. There's going to be, you know, the midi will start to back up. You know, there's going to be some sort of alley dodge. You know, something, there's going to be a two-man game behind, whatever it is. That's time to, and you want to get a little quieter there and just focus on the ball. So you're, you know, top right, top left, you know, whatever it is, and then it's just sort of quiet. You know what I mean? And you just watch the ball. Okay? So you're taking it all in until it's time not to. Who else? Yeah. Pre-game routine? Yeah, I would say, so on the field? Okay, my pre-game routine would start before the field. Okay, just so you know. So I would be listening to music, I would be watching film, I would be watching, you know what, another one is great, it's like a highlight reel. Just, you can, I think there's one that says like, something in the cage, like monsters in the cage, you know what I'm talking about? It's like a 12-minute video. That's a really good one to watch, just put it on your phone. And that would be good. And then the routine is really up to you, but something that's going to be able to, for you to escalate your intensity and your focus, whatever that happens to be. So some guys like to stand to the side. Other guys want to play 6-on-6, so they ask the coach to do that. One of the things that's really good is, especially pre-game, is to have the backup goalie sort of like up near the box and make the save and then hit him. It sort of gets you in that game-type feeling, that you're making it real. Okay, the more that you can do that, the more game-like level of intensity you can get into, that's what I would do. Yeah?
If your defense isn't really cooperating with you, how could you help that, use that to
If your defense isn't cooperating with you, how can you get around it? Okay. The big thing is to recognize that you can't combat them. So leaders lead because people will follow them. That's a big mistake. If you're a leader in the cage, but don't yell at anybody. It doesn't help. You want to support those guys. The more you support them, the more they're going to trust you. Okay? Give out compliments, right? Give them some direction, but not in an authoritative way. Hey, we should probably do that. You know, the other thing is if you have a bad defense, I hear this all the time, oh, my defense stinks. Well, that's great if you want film. One of my girls, she played on a team that was, I mean, they were really bad. And she played a pretty good team, and she had 28 saves. Like, send that game out to coaches, okay? That's an opportunity for you guys, okay? You want bad defenses. Who else? Yeah.
You mentioned a game in college where you're getting lit up, you felt like you weren't doing your job because you're thinking about not losing your job.
Yep.
If you have the opportunity in the magical world to go back and talk to your younger self in the moment when you're in the worst mental spot,
Yep.
what pep talk would you give yourself?
Stop the ball. Stop the ball. Stop thinking about all the other stuff. Your focus. So we've talked about in the past, talent minus interference. My interference was so great mentally that I couldn't focus on what I wanted to do, which was stop the ball. I need to see the contact point. Let go of making mistakes. Right? One of the guys that we talked about that was on the Brown team, we talked about all the time was just playing free. Just play free. Be yourself. Don't worry about turnovers. Don't worry about all the other stuff. Just play free. And he played free. I mean, he had an incredible season. It was awesome to watch him play and just be himself. And so if I could stop myself, I would say, go to the sideline, or when you go to the sideline, take your helmet off. Relax for a second, maybe pour some water on your head, and then when you put it back on, start anew, and just get back to the shot in front of you. Okay? Jack Kelly, in the Final Four, had an okay first half. But he was out of the cage a lot, and I know exactly how he felt because he was in that same mode that I was in of like, I got to do everything. And he was running out of the cage, and I think they scored 3 goals without him even being in the goal. And in halftime, I said, Jack, you want my opinion? He goes, yeah. And I go, you're trying to do too much. Just stop the ball, man. That's it. You don't have to do it all. And he's like, yeah, okay. And I think he had 10 saves in the third quarter. Like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? That's all world stuff. He starts for Denver now, by the way, right? So that's what I would do. Is to get back to the simple. Stop the ball. See the ball. Aggressive mindset. Any other questions? All right, we all good? Guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We are going to work on some stuff. Thank you. Thank you very much. I will have, I got a box of books. If anyone wants to buy one, just come ask me. And we will work on this stuff tomorrow. We want to get in that mindset. You can't have one without the other, okay? Thank you so much for coming, guys. I appreciate it.